Hello and welcome to episode 378 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now joining me on today's episode is the film director Kiah Roache-Turner. You'll know Kiah for some of his work including Wormwood and his most recent film Sting. Today we get to talk all about his career to date, and I'll say it now, it's probably the most frustrating interview I've ever done. And I do not say that in a negative way. My God, me and Kiah, you'll hear it on today's interview, click like never before. And it's so upsetting because we run out of time. And I can safely say that there's never been a guest I've wanted to continue an interview with as much as this one. My God. But I won't spoil it, I won't go into it anymore. I'll let you be the judge of it when you're listening. But I can guarantee and tell you all right now that he will be returning and we will continue this podcast because it's definitely a 2 or 3-parter. It's that good. But before I get there, let's quickly touch base and talk about my last episode. On episode 377, I was joined by the drummer Atom Willard. This interview blew up. Thank you so much to all the fans out there from Alkaline Trio, Offspring, Rocket from the Crypt, all the music fans that tuned in. It really means a world. I've seen so many people sharing it. I've seen also Atom share it, which made it blow up on a whole new level. So thank you to everyone that tuned in. But today it's all about movies, and I love talking to directors, and Kiah is just absolutely awesome. So I think the best thing to do is to get straight to it. So here's me and Kiah talking all things movies. Welcome to the Mark and Me podcast.
It's good to be here, Mark.
What I love to do with all guests, my friend, is I'm always intrigued to take it right back to the very start. So when you were growing up as a kid, can you remember that first film you saw maybe at the cinema or at home, or someone gave you a VHS, or someone told you to go and watch a certain film? I remember as a kid, one of my early memories was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with my parents on a Saturday, and I wondered what yours was.
Like, if we go right back, like I had a very, very magical screening of like one of the Rescuers movies. It might have even been the original The Rescuers, and I saw it in some it was a weird little bush cinema in a place called Sussex Inlet, which is kind of on the south coast of New South Wales. And it was like old and rustic. Like in my memory, it was like the 1940s, but like this would have been like the late 80s. You know what I mean? And yeah, I just remember watching it and eating, this Australian sort of malt chocolate called Jaffas, and I was just lost in that world with the animation and the mice doing whatever they did. And it was quite a dark tale with like dogs and wolves and all sorts of weird, scary stuff, but magical too. And I fell in love. I was just like, that's because I was brought up a Catholic, and you're like, well, God is in church. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure God is in the theater over here. It was just really magical. And then, you discover Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark and all that stuff, but that was a special moment for me when I was a kid,
Did you, and I know at that point you're way too young, but did you then, like you said, you fell in love, that was it for you? Were you then really keen in front of your parents, like, take me to see more, let me see more films? Was there like, you just kind of got absorbed in it?
Yeah, I think I was the generation where film was like church, I feel bad for my kids now because they're discovering all this stuff on iPads and iPhones and like on, I don't know, television even feels like just sort of big streaming. Like they don't get to the cinema as much. And the cinema for me was like so special.
Yeah.
It was a magical thing, and we didn't have as many devices. Like when I grew up, like we had a crappy, grainy, small cathode ray black and white television. And so to go to the cinema was like, it was a different thing, and kids these days can get these amazing images wherever the hell they want, so to them it's nothing special. But there was a real romance to the cinema when I was a kid, which I feel bad that this generation is missing out on,
I don't know if I'm sounding like a granddad. I'm 42 years old, but when I was a kid, it was a spectacle. It was like this event. It was like, okay, we'll go to the cinema, and the film would be showing for weeks. It wasn't like now where a film is lucky to last 2 weeks, maybe 3 at tops. And it was this big event, like even just getting the popcorn at halfway through the film, there'd be an interval, and it would be this
Yeah.
huge event. Like, oh, we're going to the pictures. Like, wow. And like you said, it is lost a bit now because of every streaming service, the fact that you can watch anything on demand. Even videos, you'd wait a year for a film to come out, wouldn't you? You'd go to the cinema, you'd love the film, and then you'd have to wait about 12 months for it to come out for home release. And now
Yeah.
it's like two
And it
weeks.
grew and grew and grew and grew in your mind into
It
this
did.
huge thing. And then if it was something that was amazing, it was worth the wait. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember we went to America when we were kids, and I remember we went and saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Oh,
at the
amazing.
cinema, and I spent a year trying to explain to my friends how amazing this was, and we had to wait a year for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to make its way from America to Australia. Like it took 12 months just to get here. And then when it got here, I had all this I had all the intel about what was cool about it, but I've been talking about it for so long that I built it up. And of course, it was amazing when it got here. It was a wonderful film. But yes, and it was just special. The fact that you had to wait for stuff. And, if you saw something on television and it was cool, you might never see it again. You know what I mean? Like you
I
had to just
know.
remember it. And then maybe one day in like 4 or 5 years, it might come out on VHS or something. But I mean, or you'd find it again, or did that even happen? Yeah, this day where you get this age where you can just press any button and get access to anything, in the entire history of the world, you could just access it through Google. But we had to find stuff.
I
And even back in
know.
the day, I remember hearing about A Clockwork Orange that had been banned in your country and mine. You could get it in
Everywhere.
America, but like
Yeah.
it was this Kubrick thing that was like so violent that it was banned. And I had to go to a video store that had it under the counter. I had to request it, trying not to look too shady. And I remember the woman at the counter was
Giving
looking
him
at me
like a
going,
magic
"Oh,
wink.
am
Like,
I? Yeah, am I going to give this 15-year-old an R-rated banned film?" And she's like, "Yeah, all right," And she got it out from under the counter, and I watched A
Christ.
Clockwork Orange, and it blew my brain apart. But you had to, yeah, you had to go. You had to get on a train and go somewhere to get a thing to bring it back. You don't just, "Hey Siri, give me what I want." You know what I mean?
The
It's
worst part was when I got a bit old and I was starting to get pocket money and I was at school and stuff, and it came to the weekend and we'd be allowed to go to the video shop and my parents would be like, you can choose any film, and I remember all the iconic 80s films, so you'd see the covers for stuff like Silence of the Lambs, and you'd see all these amazing pieces of artwork,
yeah,
all the classics, and you'd be allowed to pick a film, and then you'd get home, and if it was terrible, it was the
yeah,
worst news ever because you'd just spent your pocket money and you'd
yeah,
rented this film. You got home and you were
yeah.
like, "Oh, this is awful!" Like,
Part of what
oh,
made me want to get into films was being effed over
yeah. You can
by
swear,
video
man.
covers, being
Yeah,
fucked over by
yeah.
bullshit video covers.
Royally
I
fucked
remember
over.
renting a film called The Exterminator, and it was a guy in a helmet, a painting, not a photo, by the way, a guy in a helmet, and he had muscle arms, and he had this helmet, and he had a flamethrower, and he was standing on a burning car, just flaming shit. And I was like, "That's going to be sick."
That is the
And I rented
greatest.
that, and it
Yeah.
was the worst 70s piece of shit. There was no helmet, there was no flamethrower. Like, there's no,
False
I was just like,
advertising.
it was just they made some art that looked cool. And then I'm like, one day I'm going to make movies and I'm going to bring that stuff to life, So I try and think of the coolest shit that I can, and then make sure that my poster lives up to, the content. You know what I mean?
Well, this is a nice segue into what I was going to ask. So I was really intrigued what it was that made you want to get into film, and the fact that you've been fucked over by covers and films didn't live up to their expectations.
Yeah.
Was it college or school or a bit later on that you were like, I'm going to do this for real, like I'm going to actually make a living out of this?
Yeah, I mean, I always loved film, like always. But I mean, like anybody, I'm probably a little bit older than you, but probably I definitely am. You said you're 42, I'm 46. So I'm just slightly older than you.
Yeah.
But I was still in the unattainable media generation where it's like films are made by like gods who sit up in Hollywood somewhere, and like we can't even, because it was all film. You have to get somebody who had a Super 16 or 35 millimeter camera to even approximate, because or you were going to get like an 8mm thing. You have to get a lot of money together and a crew and all this stuff. Now you can do it on your phone. It's really accessible. But so I always loved film, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll be a comic artist, because I can do that. All I need is some pencils and papers and ideas. But I can draw, but not that good. And then there was a point where, I started making films on high 8. You remember back then, like with high 8 and video. And I always used to do a thing where I hated the look of video. So I'd put the fake black bars on the top and bottom and make it black and white to make it kind of look more cinematic, But yeah, it wasn't really until, I really wasn't sure how accessible it was going to be until I was a little bit older, maybe in my 20s. And, the film camera called the 5D, the Canon 5D Mark II came out. And that was the first thing where you could just go out and spend a couple of $1,000s on a camera, and it came out looking like 35mm film. I'm like, you can shoot something that kind of looks like Goodfellas for nothing. And when that camera came out, I was like, okay, like I have to stop talking about it. Now all I have to do is just go out and shoot a film. And that film became Wormwood. And that, we ended up shooting that. It took, I think, 3.5 years to shoot. We decided to shoot it on weekends, like me and my brother and my friends, just, dressing up like zombies and, sort of welding things onto like old, 4-wheel drive trucks to make them look post-apocalyptic. And my theory was that we've seen zombie films and we've seen Mad Max, but we've never put those two things together. So I'm like, if the zombie apocalypse happened, I think that I would, dress up in leathers and like have helmets and shit so the zombies can't bite me. And I'd make a homemade mace and I'd go out and crack some skulls and we'd have a great time, And so I kind of made a film based on that premise. And rather than go the standard route of like, going to producers and trying to get financing and all of that stuff, like which we did, we wanted to just do it ourselves. Like we had a few meetings with like industry people and like they were so condescending and mean. We were just like, oh dude, like by this point I was in my 20s, my brother had a job, I had a job. I'm like, I'd already started making short films and experimenting with the 5D, and it's like, look, I'm making short films that look pretty good. Why don't we just make 20 short films in a row and put it together, and that's a feature film. And then we'll just, I don't know, like release it on YouTube for free. Who cares? Like at least we've made a film. And so that's what we did. We spent years doing it. And, we cobbled it together. And when we looked at it, or more importantly, when other people looked at it, they're like, no, this is good. Like, don't just put it out there. Like, and a distributor actually bought it and released it like it was a real film. And here I am.
Wormwood genuinely is an absolute fucking masterpiece for the money that you had and for the tools and everything. I truly put it up there. There's some films that I've seen, stuff like District 9, where these debuts are really mind blowing, and you think to yourself,
District 9 is, man, like it's the Citizen Kane of science fiction. It really is. It's. I actually think. Have you seen Moon? Like
I
Duncan
fucking
Jones'
love
Moon, like District 9, like they're masterpieces. Like they're as good as like Lawrence of Arabia, in my opinion. Anyway,
Neil Blomkamp's been on the podcast 4 times, and I can't.
He's a legend.
I can't ever get through to him enough. Just how good that film is. Like, I don't know how you make it. I watch it, and every time I'm just blown away. I just think it is genuinely unbelievable.
Well, the thing about District 9 though is it's a thing of perfection. And I mean, maybe that's just me looking at somebody else's work. Like to me, I look at Wormwood and I'm like, oh, it's held together by gaffer tape and dreams, but like District 9 is perfect. Like there's just no, it's perfect. It's beautiful. But yeah, no, the thing I like about Wormwood is that it's what happens when a bunch of blokes get together and they just have a camera, you know what I mean? Yeah. It really is just thrown togetder. Like we had no idea what we're doing. And, it
gave me off the same
it's all handmade.
It gave me the same sort of vibes as Neil Marshall's Dog Soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of, homegrown. We've got some equipment. We're in the woods. We've got this great story, and we're a team of people that you can see your heart and soul, and every bit of budget that you've had, which isn't a lot, has been spent wisely. And that sometimes is so beautiful to see because you've given it all. You've given it everything.
Well, It's really nice because it's genuinely a film that's just made on the love of films.
Yeah.
Like it was all deferred payment, so nobody got paid up front. And like we just, like all of us got together and just gave our weekends for 3.5 years. And like me and my brother obviously put up all the money we had. Like our mum put in some money. My dad put in some money. Even my boss was like, "What are you guys doing? All right, here, have some money." Like it was weird. And
I
we did
love
some
this.
Kickstarter
Yeah.
stuff. So like the general public helped. Like there was no distribution coming in. There was no studio. It was just people who love what they're doing. And when we ran out of money, we just stopped filming and we worked and we saved. And then 2 or 3 months later, we had enough money to get the prosthetics and buy the new
Oh,
props
this
that
is
we needed.
magical.
And
Yeah.
as we were writing, like I'm like, oh, this script is a bit shit. I'll rewrite it in the time, So we rewrote it. Like the original script bears no resemblance to the final thing because we were learning as we went. And it was all shot chronologically and stuff. So in that last little sequence in the forest, we finally knew how to make a film, And it's really funny because we go through these different I shouldn't really be talking about Wormwood in this. I should be talking about
No,
my
we'll get
spider
to
movie,
Sting,
but who
but
cares?
yeah,
We'll get to spiders.
it's
But
fascinating. Yeah.
the thing I love is like each section of Wormwood represents us learning more and more how to make films. And like each section looks a bit different because we couldn't get the cameras that we wanted, or sometimes that would break down and the lenses wouldn't be available. So some of it was Canon lenses, some were Zeiss lenses. It was shot on the Canon Mark II at the start because that was the cheap one. And then we got the Canon 300. And then we worked our way through several permutations of cameras until we finally got the red camera, but only for the last little section. So each section changes as we sort of get better and get better equipment. And it's kind of fun to watch. It's watching that isn't really like watching a movie. It's like watching a section of my life where I went to film school.
And how nice is that
like,
you've got that documented as a film, but it's your your film school, your how-to guide.
Yeah,
That's beautiful. That's
it's
so rare.
it's
It's
great.
so
Yeah,
organic.
it's not.
Yeah.
And when somebody loves it, it means a lot to me because it's not just a film. It's like it's a, people got together and got married and had children, and like you could see the beards like grow and shrink and people age through it. Like it was 3.5 years of our lives. Yeah.
So now we should talk about Sting.
Yeah.
Because I'll get told off if I don't.
Right. Well, Sting's coming out. Yeah. But Sting is a wonderful evolution. Like I sort of did.
It's 10 years later, isn't it? So it's a decade later after Rimwood. So.
Yeah, and but it's like every film you make is like such a weird learning curve. Like we did Wormwood, and then we came out and we did sort of Necrotronic, which was a little bit more studio, and we lost our way a little bit, and then we came back and kind of did exactly the same thing that we did on Wormwood, but instead of shooting it over we had more money but less time, and so we did the same thing but with more money but faster, So instead of 3.5 years, we had 6 weeks, but we had 4 times the budget, and so that was great to know that how we made Wormwood still worked, even when you do it in a sort of professional context. And Sting is me really trying to go, look, I really want to know if I can make a commercial horror film that is accessible to audiences, but still has a little bit of that sort of weird, crazy comic book Wormwood flavor that I love, So it's kind of me trying to meld with some kind of a Blumhouse approach, you know what I mean?
I believe if someone came to you even with a Marvel budget and you had like 300 million, you'd still keep that authenticity and that roots that are within you. I never think you'd try and do like a Christopher Nolan film and make it like absolutely. It's not you, is it? It's not in your blood. It's like Peter Jackson. It's the same sort of thing.
Well, the ironic thing is, Peter Jackson in the first 3 Lord of the Rings certainly, and Christopher Nolan in the way he does things. These are people who found a way to make films when they were younger, and then instead of becoming studio creatures, they said, look, you're going to give me $200 million and I'm going to make the films the way that I learned how to make them in Wellington or on the streets of wherever Nolan's from, So Christopher Nolan actually still makes films weirdly in the way that he learned how to make them in his short films, and I think that's the secret to him being different. And this is what I'm learning. Like the longer I spend, sort of making films, I'm actually I'm so surprised because I keep going back and back and back and going, actually, the way I made Wormwood is the way that I should make every film.
Yeah.
And any studio or producer or person who comes in and kind of tries to drag me away from that and says, it's cute that you did that, but now let's be professionals and grown-ups. Those are red flag people. Red flag people. You got to stay away from them. You want the people who are like, look, we loved Wormwood.
Trust the process.
Here's some more money.
Yeah.
Let's do it again, and yeah, that I think is the way forward,
So with Sting and having less time but more money, does that put you under a lot more pressure? Do you feel more anxious on set? Did you feel like there were more eyes on you? Did it not feel as intimate?
No, I think it's kind of always the same, weirdly.
Yeah.
Anytime I get on set, I'm just like, oh, this is the same. Because like the difference with Wormwood is I had more time to percolate between shoot days, but every shoot day is the same. It's just you've got more shoot days over a small contained period of time. It's all the same stuff, yeah, like the hardest part about filmmaking that I've got a lot of friends who sort of struggle with this is like you have a plan and you have an idea of the thing in your head, and sometimes you get to shoot that, but 70% of the time you have to shoot what's in front of you. And, this doesn't work and that doesn't work and we don't have budget for this. So you need to change very quickly to shoot the best possible version of the thing that is presented to you rather than getting locked into the idea of how it should have been,
Yeah. What great advice.
And so in that respect, well, filmmaking, I think, is more like professional sport than art. If you want to like make art, be a writer or a painter, you can sort of make art beautifully with Mozart playing in the background and stuff. But like filmmaking is just go, 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 go. Like it's not how good are you, it's how good are you fast, So if you can't make your art running, then you probably should become a writer.
So many people listening now thinking, oh, fuck. I love the honesty.
But I love your honesty. Some people
like
that though. I like to drink 10 coffees and go, okay, what do we got? Okay, that's a nightmare. That's nothing like what we needed. What if we put the lights over here and bring the fog machines in and turn the lights off? Actually, just have one tiny little red light and suddenly it looks good. I like being presented with that challenge.
Do you already have pen to paper and some new projects on the horizon? Or are you kind of just taking a bit of a breather? What's your kind of current situation now?
I literally just yesterday finished shooting my giant shark movie.
Ooh.
I'm doing a World War II shark movie where it's very loosely based on a true story of the HMAS Armidale that sank halfway between Darwin and East Timor, and a bunch of guys went in the drink when their warship got sunk by Japanese fighter planes, and they all get attacked by a great white shark. It's
Jaws is my favorite film of all time. Like Jaws is for me. I don't know if you can see. I'll show you now, but I've got the poster straight opposite.
Oh, gorgeous! Yeah, man.
It's my world. Like there's Jaws, John Carpenter's The Thing, and then everything else. Like,
wow, we could be very good friends, Mark. Like Jaws, The Exorcist, and John Carpenter's The Thing, are and Alien. They're kind of the ones that you're like. They're that's the Rosetta Stone.
My little secret is I prefer Aliens.
Well, I mean, it's a more
on different
fun
days,
film.
But yeah,
it's like The Godfather and The Godfather 2.
Yeah,
I mean, The Godfather 2 arguably has more genius in it, but without.
But you've made a shark movie, my friend. That's like.
Yeah, and also because you're such a Jaws fan, the cat will be out of the bag. You would know that the pitch for my film is very like Quint's USS.
As soon as you said it, I was thinking, do I tell him? Do I say anything yet? I'll wait.
Oh, 100%. I'm just like, who's going to make that film?
Yeah.
And I sort of knew that I couldn't just go down the road of making that because I'd never get the rights, and B, if I did, the Americans would want me to do a $30 million perfect version of that, and I knew that this is more low budget. It's And but if there's an Australian version, which there 100% is in history, I'll just do a riff on that, and
Yeah.
I can do my version safely. Yeah, and so it's a much more contained and crazy version, but it's great. It's all practical. You'll be happy to know. Like, there
Yep.
might be some digital fixes here and there, but we've got a shark that just looks mental. And that's, with Sting, it was the same thing. It's like, look, we can have some digital spiders here and there, but at the end of the day, it was very important for me. I have arachnophobia. So the idea of a giant spider the size of a pit bull terrier biting people and dragging them into an air conditioning duct and devouring them, like, that's a thing that has to be tactile, like, I want to have those 8 legs and the mandibles coming at people's faces and stuff. Like, I don't want
Dude, I
like
think
people
we're
just
like
screaming
long
at a
lost
tennis
brothers
ball.
because I honestly believe we're long lost brothers because when I was a kid, and we could take this full circle now, my parents took me to
Yeah.
see Arachnophobia in the cinema and it fucked me up. Like, I will say now it's one of the scariest cinema experiences of my entire life. Like, I fucking hate spiders, and my wife will wind me up if I'm in the house and she finds even just a small little spider. She'll be like, "Look, look," and I'm like, "I am going to die. Like, get that away from me." So,
This is the worst segue in the world, but I'm getting angry emails. I do have to go off to this other interview. God
no
damn it.
worries.
I'm just starting to love you, Mark.
We could
This
do
is going to
another.
have to be a short interview. We did a
We,
little bit of Sting and a lot of just like cinema history.
why don't you
God damn it.
come back on and we'll do a second part
All right.
whenever you want. The only thing I need to do before you go, and I have to do this on every
Uh-huh.
episode, the guest chooses the final song. So as this interview is edited, you can have any song in the history of music that plays. I've
Oh,
done it with every
wow.
episode, as every guest that's been on, because if I didn't, I'm going to get emails and tweets and Facebook comments saying, "You did an interview and you never asked the question you ask everyone."
All
Fuck the
right.
next guest who's waiting. You can tell
What
me.
can I do? Yeah, fuck those guys. What can it be? Oh no. Um, there's so much to choose from. Do you know what? I'm going to go with Harry Nilsson Coconut because that's one of my
Fucking hell.
favorite cuts at the end. I know it's a weird one, but
Yeah.
the end of Reservoir Dogs. He's
Yeah.
like Larry, Larry, and then he fucking shoots Harvey. Harvey Keitel shoots Tim Roth in the head, and it just goes ding, and it cuts to black,
Yeah.
and
That's
Harry Nilsson starts
perfect.
playing Coconut. Maybe you could cut to black here, and Harry Nilsson could play Coconut.
I might just fucking do that. And then I mean this, dude, because I've been doing this 7 years and I sometimes meet a guest
Yeah,
and it clicks and I'm like, oh, this is
yeah.
great. And I feel like we scratched the surface and the listeners will be like, oh, why did you end that interview when you were just starting to talk about sharks?
We'll do a part 2. I would love to do a part 2.
Oh, man. Now you can see why I said it's the most frustrating interview. Time ran out. We really were getting warmed up. We were hitting it off. We had so much to talk about, especially Jaws. And then beep, beep, beep. It was time for his next interview. Gutted. But I don't tease you out there. I stick to my word. Kiah is coming back on. I've spoken to him. We're going to sort it out soon. So you will get another follow-up to this, hopefully in the very near future. I want to say a massive thank you to Kiah for coming on the podcast. And also, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please go and check out his brand new film, Sting. It's available now on DVD and Blu-ray or digital, and I'll be doing a competition over the next couple of weeks on all my socials to win a copy of this as well. It's so good, it's so scary, and I fucking hate spiders, so yep, it doesn't do good things to me at all. Also, if you've enjoyed today's episode, why not take that time just to hit the share button on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Get the word out there for Mark and me. Please, it really does go a long way. You might think it doesn't, but people on your friends list or followers will see it, might enjoy the film or have seen the film, and then go and check out the interview, and suddenly they subscribe to Mark and me and are a listener for life. And that is something that money can't buy. Also, I do have a Patreon account to host these podcasts on stuff like Amazon, Spotify and Podomatic. It costs a lot of money. The bandwidth is huge and the storage is even bigger, and it does actually cost quite a lot of money. So to put the money back into the podcast, I really rely on people to support me on Patreon. But don't think you don't get anything for your money. You're going to get exclusive episodes called The Lost Tapes. You're going to get a merch pack as soon as you sign up, which includes a limited edition badge, stickers and so much more, a monthly newsletter, competition prizes that are only available to people on Patreon, and so much more. The link's on markandme.com, and if you can, please support me because times are tough and it really is difficult to try and keep this going if I can't pay to have the lights on. Right, I'll be back in a few days' time with another brand new episode, but just before I go, let's give a shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, Richer Sounds. If you're in the market for a home cinema surround sound system, TV, Sonos, headphones, anything to do with audio and visual, hit up richersounds.com or visit any of their stores. Without those guys and their sponsorship, this podcast wouldn't be here, so thank you so much to Richer Sounds. Right, I'm going to go now. I thank you all for listening, and I'll speak to you all in a couple of days' time.
Brother bought a coconut, he bought it for the time. His sister had another one, she paid it for the lime. She put the lime in the coconut, she drank and poured up. She put the lime in the coconut, she drank and poured up. She put the lime in the coconut, she drank and poured up. She put the lime in the coconut, she called the doctor, woke him up and said, "Doctor, ain't there nothing I can take?" I said, "Doctor, to relieve this bellyache." I said, "Doctor, ain't there nothing I can take?" I said, "Doctor, to relieve this bellyache." Now let me get this straight. Put the lime in the coconut, you drank and poured up. Put the lime in the coconut, you drank and poured up. Put the lime in the coconut, you drank and poured up. Put the lime in the coconut, you called the doctor, woke him up, said, "Doctor, ain't there nothing I can take?" I said, "Doctor, to relieve this bellyache." I said, "Doctor, ain't there nothing I can take?" I said, "Doctor, to relieve this bellyache." You put the lime in the coconut, you drink them both together. Put the lime in the coconut and you feel better. Put the lime in the coconut, drink them both up. Put the lime in the coconut and call me in the morning. Ooh, 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 Brother bought a coconut, he bought it for the time. His sister had another one, she paid it for the lime. She put the lime in the coconut, she drank and poured up. And put the lime in the coconut, she called it Dr. Coconut. She said, "Doctor, ain't there nothing I can take?" I said, "Doctor, to relieve this bellyache." I said, "Doctor, ain't there nothing I can take?" I said, "Doctor, now let me get this straight. You put the lime in the coconut, you drink and pour it up. Put the lime in the coconut, you drink and pour it up. Put a lime in the coconut, you drink and pour it up. Put the lime in the coconut, you're such a silly